Now Blab is recording. We're good to go. Hi guys. If you're tuning in on the recording, this is Nate Bagley and Laura Heck. I don't know which side you're on. And we're here to talk relationships. I have a podcast, if you don't know my work, and that's kind of how Laura and I met. I interview couples who are in love with each other, as well as relationship experts from all over the country. And Laura has done an exceptional amount of work on relationships. Maybe you should give your credentials. I'm scared to give credentials now, just out of the fear of credentialing you incorrectly. LMFT. So just to clarify right up front, the title of this blab says that Laura is from the Gottman Institute. Now, in no way is she officially representing the Gottman Institute, but she has done a lot of work with the Gottman Institute and has helped design some of their programs and is a certified trainer and really knows their material inside and out, but she does not officially represent the Gottman Institute. Did Michael Fullweiler, oh, I love you, buddy, over at the Gottman Institute. It's like, yeah, we're clear. Okay, we're good. Cool. So we've been collecting questions for the last couple of days from friends and strangers. And if you have your own questions, feel free to leave them over in the questions bar while we're doing this on Blab. And we'll answer them. We can keep them anonymous. If you'd like us to keep them anonymous on Blab, just let us know. We'll just read a question and give us an answer. But I wanted to go back to some of the ones that we had earlier this week to start off, Laura. So can I read it and then we can just talk? Okay, perfect. Okay. I've removed all names except for Dr. Gottman. Okay, so the first question we have is, why is it important to say yes to your partner's wishes and desires? It seems so artificial when you know how extremely opposite you are on such matters. I'm the dreamer with big dreams and desires and no limits to living them out. My wife is the non-dreamer. She's practical, a minimalist partner. How do two extremes seriously support each other without having a stroke? Way to keep it anonymous. Mm. It totally makes sense. I feel like a lot of the answers to these questions are going to be like, what does this say about you? How does this reflect back on you? If you're, and what about on the other side? What if your partner's having a hard time saying yes to your dreams? Hmm. Totally. So I want to share a story really quick. Can I share a story? So one of the, oh, thank you so much. You're so generous. So one of the podcast episodes I've done was with a couple named Jim and Cindy Wigdahl, and Jim was a bachelor in up until his mid-50s. He had never been married. Super amazing couple. But Jim and Cindy met when they were in college, and then after college they graduated. She moved overseas to pursue some things, and he moved to the Boston area to work for Harvard. And their lives just took different paths, but they always kind of stayed in communication. And Cindy got married, had a kid. Her husband passed away, and then later on, they kind of rekindled at a college reunion or re-met at a college reunion and rekindled the relationship and ended up getting married. One of the things that Jim said that really has stuck with me over the last several years, I can't shake it out of my head, is he said that marriage will break you. It will take you apart and then force you to put yourself back together into the best possible version of yourself. And I really love that. And I think that this particular question that we started out with is a really good example of marriage kind of pushing you to a limit that might require you to break yourself and become somebody different. And that's kind of, I feel like if you're in a relationship and you're not, the purpose of a relationship is not to make you happy. The purpose of a relationship overall, in my opinion, is to provide you opportunities to grow. And that growth oftentimes creates happiness, but sometimes it also creates pain and frustration. And there's a lot of different emotions that result from that growth. But if you're in a relationship and you're resistant to growth, then the relationship doesn't progress, and a relationship that doesn't progress doesn't feel fulfilling. And so I would challenge the idea that if you're not willing to back your partner's dreams, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes you, you're resisting that opportunity for growth and progress as a person and as a couple. And it can be really detrimental to your relationship because it stagnates it. And maybe one of the most beautiful things about this relationship, if it's pushing you outside your comfort zone, is that it gives you the opportunity to break yourself down and change and become a different version of yourself. There's another couple I interviewed in Boise, Idaho, and they talked about how when they got married, they had completely different opposing political views, opposing different interests. And over time, like, the more conservative husband has become a lot more moderate. And like the wife who she hated the outdoors is now into like horseback riding and a lot of other things. And they've introduced each other into things. They've introduced each other to ideas and possibilities that they never would have introduced themselves to. So I think that there's some value in there in kind of just growing and evolving as a human being. And maybe that's an idea to explore. Totally. There's 3 pointing back. Me too. So instead of looking at what's wrong with your partner and how can they change, look at what it's saying about you. Because really, you can't change your partner, can you? I know it's kind of a cliche and boring, like really everybody says that you got to focus on you. You can't change somebody else, but it's probably because it's true. Okay. We got another question here. This came from a conversation that I had with an acquaintance earlier this week. I thought it was really interesting because I've heard this idea come up a lot. And so I wanted to read kind of her take on relationships and then see what comes from it. She said, I read excerpts from the 7 Principles book, and rather than feeling empowered and positive, I felt doomed to marriage failure. Can you imagine going into Dr. Gottman's lab and 15 minutes later, he's like, yep, you guys are doomed. It just made me feel like we're all doomed in a way, because at some point or another, we all have the 4 horsemen, allow the 4 horsemen into our lives, or we all, our relationship suffers or struggles in some way. So what would you say to that? Like somebody who kind of starts reading the research on, if you read the research on relationships, you know, there's some pretty harrowing statistics, and the science kind of says that love is not easy. It requires a lot of work and it's really hard. And that can create an attitude of dismay and kind of fear around love. So what would you say to somebody who kind of has that perspective? Do I have that? Do I have that? You turn into a hypochondriac. Yeah. That's a great analogy. I love that analogy because I feel like there are a lot of people who complain that they are not healthy. They complain about their body weight. They complain that they're not athletic anymore, or whatever physical complaint you have. But everybody knows that the solution to getting in shape and losing weight is to eat healthy and exercise. So they have the answers at their fingertips, but are you willing to go hit the treadmill? Are you willing to go, lift the weights? Are you willing to stop putting chocolate in your mouth and start putting kale in your mouth? And like, sometimes it's hard and it really sucks and you want to eat the chocolate eclair. And I get that. But like, if you want the results, so I think it's worth mentioning that the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work is called, it has that title, and it's not titled the seven ways to destroy your marriage or all the ways that love doesn't work. Like, you have to identify what the problems are and then offer up the solutions for those problems. And I think the statistic can be scary. The John Gottman can predict divorce, but I think it's worth emphasizing that he can predict divorce in the couples who maintain those same habits over time and don't change. So it's one thing for a couple to show up and like argue and have really unhealthy relationship practices I think everybody does that at one point or another. If that's maintained over time, of course, they're probably going to end up in a relationship failure. But if they incorporate a change in their relationship, that's when the outcome changes also. So you're not doomed. You're not doomed just because the 4 horsemen show up in your life or whatever. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, I have another question from the Blab. It says, can you imagine somebody else while having sex, and is that cheating? You think I should answer it? I just got really nervous. Yeah, well, I think before saying yes or no definitively to this question, I think it's important to define what is cheating. And I think that can be different for every couple. Infidelity is a really interesting concept because some people could see like you chatting with an ex on Facebook just casually as cheating. And some people say it's just sex. Some people say like there's a such thing as emotional infidelity. Some people don't. But I think a really good determining factor of whether or not you're being unfaithful to your spouse is whether or not you're able to be honest about your actions with them. So if you feel like you have to hide something from your spouse, I think it's a good opportunity for you to come back and reflect on, why do I feel like I need to be dishonest to them? And what is it about my behavior that makes me feel like I need to keep a secret and hide this from them? Do I think that they can't handle it? Am I ashamed of what I'm doing? So I think that in a relationship, in a sexual relationship, you can definitely have play out fantasies, and you can role play, and you can do things like that where definitely you imagine your partner in a different role or as a different person, and that can add a little bit of spice and variety to your sex life. And if you're doing that regularly and you're hiding it from them, it might be an interesting opportunity for you to kind of be more vulnerable with them, to express maybe what you're experiencing in your sex life that's having you do that, and see if it's okay with them, see if there's other things that you can do to make sex better for you, if that's the only thing that's making it interesting. I don't know. I feel like I'm deviating from the question at this point, but I think the underlying question is, what is infidelity? And then 2, are you keeping it a secret? And if so, why? And kind of explore that. Plug it in. Okay. I love it. No secrets. I think it's all. I heard it really interesting. I had a conversation with my friends Bob and Natalie the other day about sex, and we talked about how what happens in your sex life is often a magnified reflection of what's happening in the rest of your relationship. So if you're having a hard time like expressing what you want in the bedroom and asking for what you want, are you also having a hard time asking for what you want outside the bedroom? Are you in the bedroom? Are you having a hard time like getting just excited about being there? Does it feel like a task? Does it feel like it's a hassle? And if so, like in what other areas? Or are you having a hard time being vulnerable and like really sharing of yourself? Do you have to have the lights off because you're scared that you're going to be seen? And does that reflect into your relationship that you're scared to be like really fully seen? So I think if you're feeling like you have to hide things in your relationship in the bedroom, is it a reflection of not being able to be fully honest with your partner outside the bedroom as well? So interesting thought from Bob and Natalie. Okay, ready for another question? Okay, so you're great. You're great. I'm gonna kind of expound on this one a little bit. It says, do you think casual sex, no, we'll touch on that. Well, let's do it right now. Do you think casual sex is worth the emotional trauma? So there's a lot of context missing from that, like casual sex as a single, casual sex as a married person, casual sex in general. I don't know if casual sex can always result in trauma. I think sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think it depends on what you mean by trauma, but if I'll take a stab at this one. I'm actually nervous about this one too. There's a book by Wendy Walsh called The 30-Day Love Detox. And in it, she talks about how the price of sex has changed over several generations, and how, 3 generations ago, our grandparents and great-grandparents, it was like you waited to have sex till you were married. That's just how it went. And if you didn't, you were kind of seen as kind of the social outcasts of society. And then our parents' generation, it was like, oh, six or 7 dates. Like, you got to be really in a serious relationship. And how in today's generation, the value of sex has dropped to a carefully worded text. Like, if you can send somebody the right text, then it's game on. And she talks about how that has the value of sex has changed, has also affected the way that we treat relationships. And she referenced some studies. I don't remember the exact studies. I'd love to quote the source, so I feel like maybe I shouldn't say it, but the overall theme of the book is that there's never been a study that shows that there's too long to wait before being sexually intimate with somebody, that it would screw up the relationship. But that couples who are intimate within the first month, they have sex within the first month of being together, they have like a 95% chance of breaking up within the first year. And if they wait 3 months, it drops down to like 75% or something like that. But basically she says that the longer having sex really, really soon typically does not result in a long-term relationship. Now, if you're not looking for a long-term relationship and all you want is casual sex, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're clear with your intentions up front. But yes, please, just totally, please. I really love your answer. That's great. It's a great comment. Thank you for taking me off my what I felt like was a collision course. Thank you. One other question. Do you think staying married is worth the pain for your kids? I'm assuming that is an implication that that the marriage is on the rocks. please. And the parents move in and out. Wow, never have heard that idea, but I kind of like it. Where the children have the stability, they have the consistency, and it's the parents who have to do the jumping around. I love it. Wonderful. Okay, let's see if we have some more questions in here. Thank you. I want to talk about some of your myths that you have. Can we do that? Okay, so before we started this conversation, you made a list of relationship myths that we could talk about. And one of them is never go to bed angry. That's the first one you have on here. Super popular. I'm going to enjoy some chocolate while you talk. So if I'm getting stressed, I can't think logically. Yeah. Yeah. And try and remember what it was you were fighting about. It might. So there's a happy medium between going to bed angry and also talking about it. Like, so if you do go to sleep, to kind of give it a break and let your heart rate drop so you can use your logic thinking brain and have a civil conversation instead of just your animal brain going, I'm under attack. Because that's what my brain sounds like when I get emotional. It's so obnoxious. So once you calm down your brain, then you need to have the conversation. So let's really quickly, I don't want to take it. Should we just go for a half hour? Just a few more minutes? Okay. So what would you say are some good ways or good tactics to have a disagreement? Like if you find yourself at odds with each other, if you're upset with your partner, you need to talk about something that's not easy to talk about. What are some things that people can do to make sure that your brain doesn't get triggered like right out of the gates? So pick the right setting and the right timing. Meanwhile, your stomach is going, I just really want to talk to you about something. If now's not a good time, we can do it later. That's what happens inside my body. I feel like I'm throwing up all over. Am I the only one? Maybe I'm just a high anxiety person. I have a hard time with confrontation. And that's, yeah. Oh, at least one. But it's true, like that does work. Like you can't just spring a tough conversation on your partner like a smack in the face. It's not cool. It's all about the soft startup. Oh, I got it. I'm going to sit here and eat my soft serve while you finish your... Sorry, I'll be done. So cool. Okay, so I love how Sunny just joined in and we're just about to stop. Sorry, Sunny. Sunny's a good friend of mine. I love her. I'll call her after this is all over. Laura, let's really quickly before we end, how can people find you? I feel like I say your name wrong. Laura. Yes, and that's why I say Lara. It's just habit. So Laura Heck. Thanks, Sonny. Cool. Boom. And you can follow if you want to hear some of the stories that I talked about today, go to loveumentar.com, or you can follow on Facebook and check out some of the episodes. I think you'll really like them. And I think we should do it again. I had fun. Did you have fun? Never mind. Do we need to have a talk? I know. Is now a good time to have a talk, or should we? I really want to have you be present. And I only have 38. Yeah. I love Sunny. Okay, we'll come back again soon. Maybe we should just make this a regular occurrence. Let's keep playing with it. Okay. I'm gonna hang up now. Bye, guys.